As we covered when we were talking about sticky teaching, the why, what, how, tell, show, watch, one thing I really try to get across is the idea of undercomplicating. So rather than taking a complex idea and explaining it in a complex way, brains don't really like that, and it doesn't make education sticky like we need it to be. And so in the spirit of undercomplicating, I want to look at leadership as a whole. So if you had to define leadership in just one word, the idea of being a great leader, what do you think it would be? Well, I have one really good one. Moses. You heard me right. So if you think about the old DreamWorks movie, The Prince of Egypt, or ideally from the Bible, you understand the concept of Moses. Now, what did Moses do besides the old "let my people go"? He led his entire tribe through the desert to the promised land and established the 10 Commandments. So if you have to think about what a really good leader does, it's very simple. Hey guys, we're going over here, it's gonna be awesome, and here are the rules we need to follow. So a great leader understands how to convey their vision and their values. And if you can do those things correctly, not only will you get an engaged and motivated, driven team, but you also get a kick-ass culture. So really understanding vision and values, I call this concept Mosesing. Well, let's look at each of them individually. So the first thing that we want to cover is how to create a compelling, unified vision as a great leader. Well, if you need to create a unified vision, the number one thing you don't want to do is make the mistakes of bad leaders who do one of two things. Number one, they don't have a vision and don't communicate it. Or number two, and this is arguably worse, their vision is all about them and what they want to accomplish. A lot of narcissistic leaders just naturally assume other people want them to win, but it doesn't work that way. If you want to create a compelling and unified vision, you need to answer one really important question. What's in it for them? So when you're creating a goal that matters, you need to ask each of your team members what's important to them and make sure that their goals weave into your goals. So rather than pulling in a bunch of different directions, you're all pulling in the same direction. So creating a unified vision is all about what's in it for them. And you'll find that helping others actually gives you a lot of motivation as well. So creating that vision is really, really important. But then what do we do with it? Well, this sounds really crazy, but this is what you want to try and do. You want to make sure that at least 80% of the conversations you have around your team are talking about the unified vision or their goals. There are some really successful leaders like Patrick Bet-David who refer to it as speaking in dream language. If you want to be an inspirational person, talk about inspirational things more. And what's more inspirational than people's goals? So not only do you need to create that compelling vision, you need to spam it. So make sure, or at least aim as a benchmark for 80% of the conversations you have around your team, unless we're talking, like really individual hanging out with them, you want to make sure those conversations are about their goals. I call it KOTG, keeper of the goal. You as a leader, your job is to be the keeper of their goals. Because a lot of the times the staff will forget about the team goal or about their own goals. Remember, they're not you. So being able to remind them about their goals, see how they're going, asking if there's anything you can do to help them progress towards their goals, all of that counts as that 80% of conversations that you want to be talking about goals. The second component of Mosesing is values. Now, we need values in order to have culture, because culture is literally people like us do things like this. When good cultures talk about it feels like a family, it's because you have the same values and morals and vision together that brings you close together. And so if you want to create a great culture, you actually need to nominate what those traits are to bring together people that are like-minded, but also to demand those traits of the team. So if we're talking about creating compelling and meaningful values, it's actually quite a simple process. What are the non-negotiable rules that make a great culture? And that's up to you. It's about what kind of team dynamic you want to have. Now, suggestions, I would definitely have something in there about how people treat each other. And don't just say honesty. Every team says honesty is one of their values. But being a good teammate, or compassion, or do the right thing, not the easy thing. You want to have something in there that talks about how you treat each other and how you respect one another. Another good idea is one on the standards that you accept from the team. And that might be something around urgency, or, make sure, do it once, do it well, whatever those rules are that you can make sure they get stuck to, something about standards. Another really good one is about discipline and personal habits. And then depending on what kind of team you're running, educational habits or educational ideas or ego, they're also really good baseline ideas. But there may be some that are really relevant for you. Just remember, the more values or non-negotiables you have, the more you're going to have to remind the team, because they will forget. I generally don't recommend any more than 7. The human brain likes to remember in 3s and 7s, but anything from 3 to 7 I think would be good. Any more than that, it can get a little bit clustered. So making sure that you're not overwhelming. Like I said, we're undercomplicating here, guys. So understanding what those non-negotiable rules are, maybe even getting some agreement from some of your senior leaders so that you can also get some first following on it. But then once we have the values, a lot of leaders don't understand that that's not enough. To enforce values correctly and making sure they're actually used and cared about, there's actually a framework I want to teach you called the 3 R's. So the 3 R's stand for reward, reprimand, and remind. And they're very, very easy to understand. If somebody displays those values, you want to give them public praise or even rewards. Remember, Zach talked about earlier about you want to water the plants that you want to grow. So the more that you can recognize and reward when people do the values, the more people are going to go, oh, I want to do those values as well. So that's the first one. The second one is reprimand. If somebody breaks the values, that can't be a small deal. That needs to be a big deal. And now if we want to use the advice framework, you say, can I give you some feedback? It's a lot easier to have that conversation. Hey, can I give you some feedback? Look, the values are pretty clear, and this is what we need as a team, and I noticed you did this. How do you think we can improve that? So being able to pull people up, ideally quickly, is really, really useful. Good reminder with agreements, if you get in early, you can get in nice. So the earlier you can get on it, the nicer you can be. So just a good reminder there. The last one, and we were talking about it with goals, is people forget. So spam the values, making sure you're reminding people all the time, once a week even, what the values are and why. Try not to give it in the exact same way every time. It's nice to mix it up. But really get your head around the idea that people need to be reminded, because they're not you, they're going to forget. So the way that you implement the values: reward, reprimand, remind. Now, if you can put together a compelling vision and you can enforce and get buy-in on values, and you can constantly remind people on both, that's Mosesing. And if you can master Mosesing, you can master leadership. Best of luck.